Today on Locked On at Texas Tech, getting set for a gunfight at the USA. It's Red Raiders and Cowboys tonight, and we're into it next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On at Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and you can score this NFL postseason with FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers getting $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to see you again, man. And we've got a few different things to touch on here today. We're going to get to some new additions to the football program coming up in just a bit. And of course, we're looking ahead to United Supermarkets Arena as Grant McCaslin and the Red Raiders now 1-0 in Big 12 play after the conference opening win in Austin. Back in the LBK for two straight. You've got Oklahoma State, K-State coming up in the matter of a few days. First, it is the Cowboys coming up tonight. And as you may see on the screen there, if you're watching on YouTube, pressure and momentum a part of this. And they kind of go, I guess, hand in hand, sort of as you alluded to on a previous show. Whenever you do get a win like that on the road, you bring home some momentum with you. It also means, although we viewed it this way even before the Texas game, you're in these must-win situations where now you really kind of even double down further on the fact that you don't want to let these home opportunities slip away. And it starts tonight with the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Yeah, I remember that several years ago, Texas Tech. I think it was honestly, it may have been the year that you beat Kansas, and I think you were coming home to play. I want to say it was Kansas State, actually. Very winnable game, and the word around the program was validate. Because if you don't come home and win a winnable game and validate the road win, like what have you ultimately done? You've kind of just kissed your sister. You've spun the wheel. You've whatever cliche you want to use. And I think because if you look at the way people are talking about the Big 12 conference right now, whether it be some sort of numbered data like net rankings or just people's opinion on the eye test or whatever, it is mind-boggling that Texas is still ranked in the top 25. I think I saw this yesterday. Like, don't get it.
A lot of respect for Texas Tech, man. They value us a ton, even though we couldn't slide into that top 25.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Catch the Longhorns there.
Yes, that's right. But if you look at the way like a tiered Big 12, like, contender, dangerous teams, however you want to phrase them, there's a tier that's going to include Oklahoma State and Kansas State, your two next opponents here in Lubbock, that are in the lower half. However, that they are good enough to beat you. Oh yeah. And like prime example, you're an 8.5 point favorite, I think, tonight to win. That's a in a basketball game, that's a fairly significant conference point spread if you even look at such things. It doesn't mean anything unless you're wagering or whatever, but you get I always like looking at it because it gives you an idea of kind of what odds makers think and kind of, all those things, or how difficult or easy of a game it's supposed to be. Keep in mind, Texas was a 6.5 point favorite over you this past weekend. Guess what? Not so fast. Not so fast, my man Lee Corso would say. This is an Oklahoma State team that is, Bryce Thompson, the Kansas transfer, and then Javon Small, he's an East Carolina transfer. That's kind of their two scores, and Thompson's more of a combo guard, more of a wing. He's about 6'6", and Javon Small is the leading scorer with about 15 a game. And Mike Boynton is on, I don't want to say hot seat, but he's been there a while, and they just haven't gotten over the hump. Even with a guy like Cade Cunningham, the number one overall pick, and all that. They're 8-6 this year. They started out, I think, like 3-5. They were the team that lost to Abilene Christian in the opener, and that's kind of where they've been battling back from. But they're also the team that just took Baylor, a top 10 basically ranked Baylor team, to overtime at home and really could have easily beat them. So it will be interesting tonight.
Yeah, I think probably saying, and I know we're just midway through the year or so, but some of their best basketball has come most recently. I mean, is that fair to say, even though we're talking about like a quality loss, which is one of the worst terms in the history of sports? But I don't know. They're probably riding a little higher right now, if that's possible, after taking an L than they have been maybe at any other point.
Yeah, they've started to rattle some off. I mean, they've got a couple of wins, in-state wins, that I think were big for them because and I say big wins because if you don't, and these are games within their own state, it would have been not pretty and made major headlines. But yeah, Tulsa and Oral Roberts, they beat those two teams, and I think because of how they played, and like here's the Baylor game in a synopsis, which is fascinating. They held Baylor to 2 of 15 from behind the arc, but they got beat up on the glass, by the Bears, and it was still fairly a low turnover game for both teams. But Oklahoma State turned it over 12 times to Baylor 7. But it was the thing that'll make you nervous, or it's either going to make us or Tech fans nervous, or it's going to make Mike Boynton nervous. One of the two. Follow me. They start 2 freshmen, and they play 4 freshmen amongst their top 10 guys. This is, as we saw last year with Texas Tech, be careful with that because it is – you don't know what you're going to get there. And in this league, boy, it'll rattle you. You're going to get some wild inconsistencies. But like I think Brandon Garrison, one of their freshmen, 6'11", very highly ranked recruit out of Oklahoma City, had been figuring it out and just kind of middling, if you will, just kind of not really well against Baylor, against arguably the best team they put all year. He just blows up. He goes for 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 blocks. And so that's kind of what makes me a bit nervous about tonight. Is he all of a sudden a guy that has figured it out? The light has come on. The game all of a sudden slowed down for him and all that. So, like, if you want to talk about, like, keys for tonight and, like, something to pay attention to, Warren Washington has to win that matchup. They're going to be paired up a lot. They both try to block everything. Which one of them gets in foul trouble? Which one of them can score on the other? But that is something that increases Oklahoma State's like upside. It increases their margin for error when a guy like that, a freshman, kind of starts to figure it out, and he's long and athletic. I mean, because 28-4 is nothing to sneeze at in this league, especially against as talented as Baylor is.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And you're kind of hoping from a Texas Tech perspective, as far as some keys are concerned, that first and foremost, there's not this hangover from an emotional win on the road. It's one game. And just like we talked about, if they would have come up short, it's one game. You've got to move on to the next one very, very quickly. And I think that leads into what hopefully will be there for Texas Tech in the form of a good start and a good first 20 minutes. I saw that Oklahoma State had not lost a game that they led at halftime. They have not won a game that they've trailed at halftime so far this year. But hopefully the Red Raiders are going to come out firing. I would invest in Grant McCaslin and his staff's ability to have them prepared mentally and emotionally for something like this. But first 10, first 15 or 20, man, those are going to be key for Texas Tech after riding so high, leaving Austin the other night.
Yeah, fast start. Yeah, so here's Oklahoma State's MO.
First, today's episode brought to you by Jase Medical, and I hope this podcast is a great escape from the nutso realities of life, but just because it is an escape doesn't mean those realities have gone away. And one of the latest pieces of wildness I've heard, according to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics right in the middle of flu season. Can you imagine how helpless you'd feel if your spouse or kids were sick while a supply chain issue kept them from the medication they needed? You don't have to, because of the peace of mind you're going to get with Jase Medical and the Jase Case. The Jase Case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics that treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including respiratory infections, sinus issues, dermatological infections, and many more. These things can affect anybody, so be one of those anybody's that goes to jasemedical.com right now to to receive your 12-month supply of your daily medication. And remember to use our promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. Never been more important to be prepared, so take the quick step to do so for your family and go to jasemedical.com and use our promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase with Jase Medical.
Here's Oklahoma State's MO. They may be tweaking and changing this a bit based on somebody like Brandon Garrison if he can emerge and start to be consistent. But at least right now, that's an exception. He had a one phenomenal game, and the other ones have been just kind of okay. But they lean heavily on the three, more so than most teams you've seen. They make about 9.5 on average per game, which is a lot. And you're in now into that. You were hovering around 7 makes per game on average. Now you're averaging, I think, over 8 makes per game. The difference between these two teams, though, is that you get to the free throw line fairly normal and make about 16 free throws a game and shooting at about 23, 24 a game. Oklahoma State, however, is only making 11 free throws a game, which is one of the worst averages in the country. And so, two things. One, tonight, if you guard the arc and don't let them, because I've seen Oklahoma State, I think under Brad Underwood one time, they rolled in here and just, it was an early, like one of those 11 a.m., maybe noon tips on a Saturday. And you look up and it's like they've got like 7 threes before halftime. And you're like, this is an avalanche. And so you can't let that, you've got to guard the perimeter tonight. And then, don't put them on the foul line. They're not looking to get there. They don't typically, and that was a bit of a difference in the game versus Baylor. I think they were 16-20 from the free throw line, which is why that game was so close. Baylor couldn't make a three. Oklahoma State really wasn't. I think they made 1 more three or 2 more threes than Baylor did, so not many. They were well below their average. But this was a game where they got to the free throw line, 16-20, and so. You just, because this is how they want to score, is behind the arc. This is what they want to do. Don't help them if they can't get that done. Don't help them by initiating offense via the free throw line. So, and with a team that bombs away from the 3-point line, what do you get? You and I played hoops. We rebounded. We did our Rodman impressions. Long shots equal long rebounds. So. Second chance opportunities and all those things, man. You got to figure out, so yeah, Warren and Darion and your guards and rebounding. If you want to look at the game within the game, that'll really kind of tell the tale on the glass tonight.
Yeah, Chris did his impression by cleaning the glass. Mine had more to do with creative piercings, but I'll leave that mystery up to those who were there at the time. Yeah, and I think the game you were referencing, was his name Lindy Waters? Was that the guy that was just, I think, unconscious for about 2.5 hours that day?
They've had some snipers, man, roll through that program.
I don't. If he's even in the building to watch tonight, put a man on him. I don't know. He may be sitting in the 15th. If Lindy is in town, just put a man on him just to be safe.
Phil Forte, Keaton Page, Lindy Waters. And I mentioned the name of what was it, Avery Anderson. He rolled through there. He's at TCU now, or was. But anyway, but yeah, they've had some dudes. But yeah, good call on Lindy Waters, man, because yeah, he would. Yeah, DOC is what they would say. Dead on the catch. Don't let him catch it, man. Otherwise, look out.
That was the case, man. That's a great way to segue into something that I'm hoping to see return to form tonight, because this guy can get going as well. But we didn't see him going in Austin, that being Kerwin Walton. And to think that you're going to pull off a road win by double digits over a top 25 team who definitely deserve to remain in the top 25. Again, just another tip of the cap to how much they respect Texas Tech, that the Longhorns get to stay there after taking an 11-point home loss as 6 or 7 point favorites. Am I yelling? Kerwin, I did not see him with a goose egg, and that also being a part of a road win for Texas Tech. Like, if you'd have told me before the game, okay, you're not going to get that from him, but you are going to pull off the win, I would have said, how? But I wonder what you saw against the Longhorns and why we didn't see that impact from him, Chris. Was he any kind of focal point defensively for Texas? Was he just not maybe, I don't know, feeling it or getting some looks that he had previously? And what do you think it might take to get him back engaged from a scoring standpoint tonight?
He is somebody that, most of these, I guess there was the game at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth where he played well. But most of these games that we've seen from him, they've all been at home. So that's one thing. And two, when you're shooting like over 50% from behind the arc and you're getting as many shots as he is, you are going to be on somebody's scouting report. I mean, like you are going to get some extra attention. You know, it's like the Hoosiers line. Hey, let me know what kind of flavor gum he's chewing. Dentine. You know, I mean, right? I mean, so I definitely noticed. He didn't get a lot of, and he got a couple of attempts the other night. Did not knock him down, but those are going to be, you know, rare. And that, but he's got to do his part. And I think this is a perfect week to kind of, not that he's out of rhythm, whatever. I wasn't expecting a goose egg. I think he's a guy though that, if he plays really well or kind of continues to emerge and show some consistency, he's a guy that allows you to be like a serious, you know, NCAA tournament team and league title contender and all those things, those conversations. But if he's like more of the goose egg type in 28 minutes, it's going to be very difficult, I think, to keep this up, you know, because your some of your guards are going to need help. And so, you know, anyway, we'll see. I'm not ready to panic yet. You know, he's had, I guess, 2 of his last 4 games. Would that be right? He's gone scoreless. One was the UTA game, and then this. Well, I guess it was 2 of the last 3. UTA before Christmas, and no, it would be 2 of the last 4. That's right, because you had the 28th and then the January 1st. So Texas and UTA did not score. One of them, though, he was sick, getting thrown up in the warm up line and all that. But I'll also point out, you mentioned about hot starts and all those things, but you got to get him engaged early. If he knocks down one of those first couple of looks, that seems to be a guy that gets going and he feeds off of that whenever it does happen.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, not that it matters now, but there was a possession in Austin where there was a whistle on maybe a foul away from the ball or something, and he's putting one up and he knocks it down. It's nothing but the bottom of the net, but that's the only time we saw that from Kerwin on Saturday night, and it was 4-0. I tell you what, it's hard to say that this is the biggest whenever you got some of those other big impacts from starters or Pop Isaacs or Tucson or Washington McMillan, whoever it might have been, Darian Williams. But Lamar Washington, Robert Jennings, their contribution on Saturday night, I don't think can be overstated. I think you had 9 between them. But as far as that combination off of the bench, that was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was about the most impactful that we had seen so far this year, and it came at a great time.
Yeah, you know, and you hope that, because there's been times where this team has not played great in their building, okay? You know, and we've seen a lot of that, you know, the November, but I would anticipate guys like Robert and Lamar playing better at home, as we talked about, than some of the road venues, but that wasn't the case on Saturday. They both played great and gave you quality minutes, gave you some offense, which is just found money, I think, where you're not really anticipating this. But I really hope that with guys like Lamar and Robert, that they continue to that arrow continues to point up a bit. But I hope generally you've played your best basketball at home in the last 3 to 4 games, where you've held leads, you've added on to leads, you've played low turnover ball. I mean, all the things that we had kind of talked about, whereas before it was, man, you're turning over like crazy, you're pressing, you're not shooting it well. There was a variety of, you were still winning, but a variety of problems when you look at it. Just wasn't easy on the eyes. And I think that you hope that they've turned a bit of a corner, because I mean, it should be a big crowd tonight, and that's what you want. And you've created that, you've earned that, but you just don't want this team that maybe hasn't really seen that to press and revert back. Yeah. Because, and I think you remember what I'm talking about, is just like, and granted, they talk about, I feel like we're just pressing it, whether it was trying to entertain your own fans or trying to do too much or trying to hit the home run with some alley-oop from half court, whatever. And then generally you just didn't shoot it well. But the shots went in on Saturday. And I think it's a great point to bring up Robert Jennings and Lamar Washington, because I just think any offense you get from them is just a bonus. But they kind of made up for Kerwin not being able to score, because you've got to find a recipe to get to 75 or more in most of these games. That's just the way you have to do it, and then hope that you get enough stops to keep the other team from getting to that point too.
Man, looking forward to it. Should be an exciting night from the USA for the conference home opener. And yeah, don't press too much, boys. Don't have to go Globetrotters in front of the home crowd. There's no fan base in America that more enjoys and appreciates a man just doing their job. Fact check me on that. You'll find I'm right. Okay, speaking of being at home, we've got new homes for a couple of interesting guys to discuss on a football front. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And football is close to wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place only a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. So many ways to spice up the action with FanDuel's safe, secure, and easy-to-use app. Are you really even parlaying if you're not visiting FanDuel's Parlay Hub? I doubt it. So get to FanDuel.com/lockedon today. And if you're a new customer, take advantage of $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place only a $5 bet with FanDuel at FanDuel.com/lockedon, official partner of the NFL. Since our last conversation, Chris, we've had a couple of new additions for Texas Tech football, and these are interesting for a variety of ways, but we'll stick mostly to the football impact here. You've gotten some help within the defensive secondary. And I swear to God, as you are building a new football training facility, I don't know, maybe we need to expand a tight end meeting room. Is it too late to adjust the plans there? Because this collection is growing seemingly by the day. It's the story that will never end as another tight end is added to the mix. Tell us about these guys and how you saw this coming to be. I know that we had seen kind of prior to this more so some talk about the defensive back edition, the tight end edition, at least from my perspective, kind of came out of nowhere. But the Red Raiders continue to do work on the quote-unquote recruiting trail.
Yeah, the old adage about talent acquisition, or like roster management, it's really just a nonstop business, because you've kind of gone from one phase of player additions, departures, whatever, to the next phase. And yeah, these two kids are going to be here for the spring semester. It's what's crazy is that these are, like, if you sign these guys out of high school, like, we're jumping up and down, but they're a year or two removed, depending on which one you're talking about. But yeah, let's go in order. Javion Wilcox, who goes by the nickname Boom. I'm here for it.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, it's like you sign the kid, his nickname's Boss. Now you're bringing in a guy named Boom. Winning is just got to be around the corner, man. I'm sorry, because you're winning the nickname battle. I wish maybe this will be like the XFL, and Joey will let these guys put like their nickname on the back of the jersey instead of the real one. Like He Hate Me. Remember that one?
Oh yeah. Rod
Boom.
Smart.
Yeah, that's right. Boom and Boss. I'm like, seriously, man, the B&B brothers. But this one, Javion Wilcox is he's from Lake Belton. So that should ring a bell for you. There's a couple of things here. One, he's a really good player. He's a former big-time recruit, spent the last year at TCU. This is all about the relationship he has with Micah Hudson, and they're friends, they're former teammates, and because there's a couple of things at play here. One, his merits stand on his own. Boom Wilcox does. Okay, so he's a very good player. He's got, 3 or 4 years left in college to play. But it creates more of a comfort level for a guy like Micah Hudson in Lubbock, Texas. And I think that is also worth noting in the day and age of player movement and all that. I just think that's another added benefit here, in that he's known Micah for as long as he has. And I just think that Micah had a lot to do with this and all those things. Plus it snags one away from, an in-state school. And so, yeah, this was kind of in the works really since late last week, I guess it was. And, there's a variety of ways to add talent to your roster, and this is one of them. And we'll get into kind of some of that maybe in tomorrow's show. But, yeah, Javion Boom Wilcox. And I don't know, is he more – I don't know exactly how they project him. I think, most feel like he's a safety, but is he more of a star? Is he more of a safety? Could they play him at corner? I'm not real sure, but he's another very speedy, talented defensive back with some size with a phenomenal nickname.
There's no question about that. Now, how about this group of tight ends? I don't know how immediately we expect impact, but are we headed towards triple tight end sets, quadruple tight end sets? Man, this is getting kind of wild.
Well, Jason Llewellyn was a big-time recruit out of Aledo. I mean, I think if you go look at his profile, I want to say that, he signed with Oklahoma, but I think you had like Texas and Alabama offers. I mean, I think he pretty much had his choice out there. He was one of the top tight ends in the country out of high school, out of Aledo, as I said. And he'd taken a tech visit. I want to say there was maybe somebody on campus, maybe his either ex or current girlfriend, I'm not real sure, was going to school at the time here. And I think he really gave Tech a long look. I'm not real sure. There was some sort of connection or relationship there that I think he was giving Texas Tech a long look. But he took a visit here, and it was right after Joey had gotten the job. Joey gets the job in late October, early November, whenever time frame that was. And I think by mid-December, Jason Llewellyn took an on-campus visit before he ended up settling in Oklahoma. And anyway, long story short, it didn't. That was 2 seasons ago. One of those, he's technically redshirted because he only played in 3 games. But I think I think as the story goes, I think he didn't go on one of the trips, and there was a situation where like one of the tight ends dropped the ball or something, and I think he tweeted out in the middle of a game, "See, this is why I should be playing more," or something like that. and so I may have that somewhat wrong, but I think somewhat right. Anyways, bottom line is I think he needed a fresh start. I think Texas Tech was more than willing. I think Texas Tech actually looked at him in early December out of the portal, but he's gonna walk on here initially, and yeah. So let's talk tight end group here. You have Mason Tharp, you have Jalen Conyers, you have John Carlos Milton, you have Trey Jackson, who you signed. Now you're going to add Jason Llewellyn. And what you have is that you've got Tharp and Conyers being the old heads, 1-year guys, but then you kind of stagger your depth chart a bit after that. And that's the point of some of these additions, is to make sure that like when a couple of these guys leave, because I mean, you do have 2 guys that could really seriously get looks at the NFL. It doesn't mean they have to have 50 catches next season in Conyers and Tharp or anything. Measurables alone, you have 2 guys that are going to get looks from the NFL if they're healthy, if they pursue this, if there's nothing crazy that were to happen, that they could absolutely. But again, now the cupboard's not bare. And it'll be up to Josh Cochran to kind of, because I mean, I'll be honest with you, Jason Llewellyn didn't play great at Oklahoma. He didn't set it on fire. I think a change of scenery is going to be good for him, and I think you have a need there. And so from a depth standpoint, that's you're not asking anything from Jason Llewellyn like immediately, but there's also a reason. Like, remember the Alex Line name? Cowan, who was in this room and in this conversation, they basically told him, "Hey man, if you want to come here, we will honor your scholarship. However, you're gonna be kind of a 3rd or 4th string guy initially, because I mean, I think internally they are extremely high on who they call JC, John Carlos. They think he is a freak. They think he's got some serious ability, and he's not even one of the guys that I'm telling you is a potential NFL dude yet, right? Yeah. So they tell Alex Line, you're probably going to be 4th string for a year, and then you're going to be in a rotation with JC the year after. We'll honor it if you want to come here. If not, we totally get it. And he was like, yeah, man, I'm out. So he cruised. But the depth is still there because you've added a guy like Jason Llewellyn, and this all allows your South Oak Cliff signing and Trey Jackson to kind of hey, let's put him in the oven for a while, and to use our analogy there, like let him grow into this deal and add some weight, and he's got some time to do that now.
Man, should be exciting to see how these pieces can be sorted out and used. But man, no question as well, whether or not you feel like a conversation is over or whatever, the recruiting period, the portal period has come to a close. Things are still cooking, like the duck calm on top of the water, paddling furiously underneath. So can't wait to see what the next revelations will be as far as quote unquote roster management is concerned, which is the least exciting way to say it. That's why we say recruiting roundup. All right, Chris, great stuff from you today, man. Looking forward to the basketball game tonight. We will digest it for better or worse coming up on the other side. So enjoyed it, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, hope to see everybody at the arena tonight. And Callan, help me do this. I've got 4 tickets. I know I try to give you 4. You already had some, but I've got 4 tickets to give tonight. Do we have somebody hit us up? The first person to DM the Locked On account? How do you want to do this? I'm doing this on the fly, but I just don't want to go to waste.
Throw out the home address. Whoever shows up first at the. You can. What do you want to do? The first YouTube comment, something like that.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so you will have had to watch the show all the way through.
That's right.
And you need to be in town.
Let us know in the YouTube comments if you need them. Don't worry about that extra additional duty for me. I'll send you the invoice, bill you for a little overtime, and hopefully some more Red Raiders in the building to enjoy the ball game tonight. All right, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks for joining us once again, and we hope to see you for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.